5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to STEM at Home with Newton's Road. For elementary students, we're so glad you were able to come today. This is your chance to learn from some experts in our region and from each other as we continue to learn at home. My name is Barb Tremott. I'm the Executive Director of Newton's Road. We are a regional nonprofit supporting STEM learning and career exploration. I also have with me today our Michigan Tech intern, Annalisa Wiesner. Say hi, Annalisa.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
We also have a very special guest today, Kimmy Wenkel. She's with Cognition in Benzie. Kimmy is an artist and at heart, and this is her very first big science project as she's going to was having her 4 children. And she has taught them at home in children's ministry for a long time and was a youth worker for 8 years before her starting her next adventure, Cognition, 4 years ago, in order to create a place for children and their grown-ups to have fun learning and investigating things together. Welcome, Kimmy.
Hi, thanks.
So before we get started with Kimmy and Cognition, we want to let you know that this session is going to be recorded and it's going to be available on our Newton's Road Facebook and on our Newton's Road YouTube, and in addition to community media after the show. I don't think, let's see, we don't have anybody into the Zoom room with us. So we have hopefully many of you joining us from Facebook. And so in our Facebook Live, if you want to ask questions of Kimmy or the Newton's Road team, please use the comment area and we will be sure that she gets your question. So we're going to move on to the Newton's Road. I'm going to share a little bit about us. In this year, in 2020, we're celebrating 10 years of working to ensure that all of the kids in our 5-county region have access to quality STEM learning and career exploration. And that way you all can become great problem solvers, which is what you're going to hear a lot about today with Kimmy. We're going to, on our website here, you can see if you want to, any of our upcoming or past STEM at Homes, you can just click here and it'll take you to all the information to find them. And also on that home page, we have a mailing list on the bottom of the page and you can get our newsletter. And sometimes we have a second announcement during the month if there's something really important we think everyone should know. But this way you'll know all about things that are happening in our region from Newton's Road and other STEAM makers in our community like Cognition. And on our Facebook, you also, we'll see the calendar here. This has all of our live events from Newton's Road and those STEAM maker community. You can see that there's some here yes, Annalisa has that. These are, you can see that Norte has some things coming up at the end of June and Cognition and that last week. So we're highlighting all the live things in our region. And if you click on the Anytime STEM events, then those are things that you could do each day with things that you could find at home and do an activity together with the kids and the parents, especially during this staying at home time. So again, if you have any questions along the way or for Kimmy or Newton's Road, put it in that comments area on the Facebook Live. But right now, we are going to go back to Kimmy. We can't wait to learn more about the thinking and the skills that goes into designing a new building.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been a really wonderful learning adventure, and I'm very excited to share it with all of you, especially as we're getting closer and closer to being able to open our new building and welcome our guests here. So this is kind of telling the story of the building and the learning about engineering and building science that we have learned at Cognition. So first of all, I have to tell you that this building that we have, we're in Beulah, Michigan. You can see the road behind me, I think. We're across from the Cherry Hut restaurant, if you've ever been to Beulah. This building was a gift to Cognition. We were trying to buy a bigger building. We had a really small space, kind of like a retail store. If you were downtown in a small store, that's about as much space as we had. And we have lots of fun things to share with friends who come to the center. We have, you know what? I can walk around, so I'm just going to show you a couple of the things. So Cognition, we're like a children's museum. It's hands-on, but we really like to focus on science and art. And so we have, you can probably maybe hear them. I have birds squawking in the background, so I'll just go to them because they're the noisiest. All right, let's show you. These are our parakeet friends. So we have lots of animals at the center that we like to hold and look at and learn about. We learn about their environments. We learn about their natural habitat in the wild and the things that they need in their ecosystem to survive. And it's been a good learning tool for kids of all ages. Our grown-ups that come to the center really like to hold and look at the animals. See, this is Misty the tortoise. She's an African spurred tortoise. So we were really running out of room in our old building to have all these animals and do all these fun things. And we were trying to buy a new building, and this building was given to us. We're very, very excited. And when you get a new building, just like when you get a new house, there's a process that you go through. We had a building inspection. So a professional who's very familiar with buildings and with electricity and plumbing and heating and cooling systems comes through the building to make sure that there's no problems, so that we're not getting a building that's going to have an electrical fire or that we won't be able to heat in the wintertime. So we had this inspector come through this building and they didn't see any problems. There were no red flags. Everything was really exciting. It was 4,000 square feet of space. So now I want to show you a little bit about what the building looks like when we first got it. We really thought that the biggest problem in our building was that it was kind of ugly. And I say that being very grateful that we got this new building, but the carpet, it had been an antique shop. And before that, it was a Secretary of State office. It was just, so it had lots of people walk through on some really old carpet. And the paint looks okay in the pictures, but there were actually tons of nail holes and chips in this really dark paint. And there were great big fluorescent lights in the building, which is kind of like a really old school building. So it just didn't look very fun or exciting. And it wasn't very energy efficient. Fluorescent lights cost a lot of money. They take a lot of electricity, and that costs a lot of money. So it wasn't very good for our budget or for the energy. So we had ideas from our very first view of the building and what we wanted to create for Cognition of just taking out the big fluorescent lights and putting in new light fixtures that would look nice, and taking out the old dingy carpet and putting in some pretty like wood floors that would be very durable. So our first ideas about this building, after we'd gotten some information and had professionals walk through and we were learning a lot, our first ideas were just to make it look great and improve the energy a little bit. So we thought we were just going to make a couple of changes. But that is when our learning journey started. We began with these first ideas to take the carpet out, and we did, instead of just trying this on our own, we brought in somebody who knew how to take carpet out and do some building renovations professionally. She had experience and her contractor's license, and this person is my cousin Jenny, and she runs a business called Fruition. And so we had an expert, we had a helper, and we were ready to get to work. So that was our very first action step, was to kind of design our ideas on paper and to start to actually carry them out. So these designs, these are some building drawings, and this was a fun process too. The one on the far right side that looks like it was done on a computer, that shows the rooms, that was actually one of our volunteers he took all sorts of measurements of our building. And so now we're talking math. Math is very linked to our building sciences. He took a lot of measurements of our building and what it looked like so we could make what's called a floor plan. So a floor plan is when you're looking from above and you can see where the walls are, where the toilets are, and the doorways are, and the windows are. And that's a really important tool when you're going to have different people work on the same building. So this floor plan drawing just was kind of showing us what was already there so that we could start to plan out some changes that we wanted to make. Now, the bigger drawing is really cool because this one was actually done by hand. This is a professional building contractor in Beulah, actually does all of his building designs by hand. It's a beautiful art. And he did the idea for the outside of the building in the top right corner too. And his name is, oh man, I'm blanking on his name, John Darien. And he's a good friend of ours. And he did these drawings for us. And so that got us started. So we were ready to come into the building. We were going to take our drawings show that we were taking a couple small walls out too. So we were going to, if you look in the tiny drawing on the right bottom corner, there's some walls in the big room on the left that aren't in the hand drawn, because we were going to take those out. And we had somebody check and make sure that they weren't going to make the roof fall in, because they weren't actually holding up any of the structure. And these are all important things. This is part of gathering information. So we were getting a better understanding of our building. We had ideas. We were developing solutions to how we wanted to change it. And we're continuing to refine the design so that we have a good plan. So then the next step in this process was to get started. It was to build on these ideas and these designs that we had. So we started tearing carpet out. So there's my cousin Jenny rolling the carpet right there. This carpet was glued. There was a pad. The white part is a pad glued down to concrete floors, and then the carpet was stuck to that. And so we were able to rip that out pretty easily. And there's a picture of me in the bottom right-hand corner. There's actually little wooden strips all around the edge of the building that the carpet was nailed and stapled to. And I had to smash that out. That's a shingle shovel in my hand. And I felt very strong and powerful, but my arms didn't want to work for a week after that because I was so sore. So we tore all this carpet out of our building. We had to learn things like, what do you do when you have piles and piles of carpet that's actually really heavy and really old and dingy? So we actually had to fill a trailer and get a dumpster and have that all hauled away. I think we totally filled 4 or 5 big dumpsters in this renovation project. And that was something that I didn't foresee in the plans, is having to throw away all of this garbage. So you can't just leave laying around. So we got busy on the floors, and it was fun. It was hard work. It took a lot of time, but we were making progress, and it was really exciting. So the next part of our renovation, I told you we took out some walls. So I have a little video to show you of some of our volunteers who helped us tear down walls. Check this out. That's fun. So some of those guys are my kids, and some of those are some of our volunteers' kids. And they earned their wall smashing time by helping us carry stuff and do all the tedious little work to get ready. And one of the fun things is, in doing that, we had a kindergarten teacher who came to help, and she then gave us an impromptu lesson on levers. So as fun as it is to smash walls with hammers for a little while, it makes a huge mess and you actually don't get very much work done. So then we started using crowbars as a lever to pry off big pieces of drywall. So we took those walls out. The next discovery we had with our building after we got rid of the carpet was that we had issues with our plumbing. Now, I told you we had a building inspection, and the professional that came in to inspect the building, he did, oh no, this was even after our inspection. We needed to have the water turned on. So the village actually turned our water off, and this whole building wasn't getting any water because it was sitting empty for a long time and was sitting for sale. So we had to go to the village to get the water turned back on, and we had to have a plumber here when that happened, just in case anything started leaking. So you can see in the pictures on the bottom right, those are some valves from the bathroom after we tore out walls. When the plumber came to turn the water on, he was worried that because water had sat in our pipes that we might need all new plumbing. So this was a problem, a big problem, because plumbing is expensive and we have concrete floors. There's no basement in this building. So all of our pipes that water runs through are under the concrete, and we'd have to have somebody come in here and cut up the concrete to change the water. Well, sometimes when you have a problem, one of the best methods we found for starting to deal with this problem was to get another opinion and to gather more information. So that was one plumber's opinion that we were going to need all new plumbing. So we had another plumber come in, and we had a professional come in who actually put a camera into our pipes to see if any of our pipes were corroding from that water sitting in there. And there was no problem with our pipes. And the other plumber that came in said, well, you don't need a whole new plumbing system, but if you want to open this building as a public place, you are going to have to make some changes to the bathrooms. So one of the things that we had to learn a lot about was building codes. In the picture on the left, you can see a pipe sticking out of the floor and what looks like mud. That's new concrete. We actually found out from the plumber that per our building codes, we would have to move the toilets of the bathrooms. And because we had to move the toilets, we also ended up having to move one of the sinks. So this became another big messy part of the project that we weren't planning on. We had to go back to the drawing board and we had to redesign the bathrooms. And because there's so much science involved with a building and keeping it safe and having the plumbing work right and having it accessible to people who are in wheelchairs or with special needs, in the building trades, there's something called codes. So there's all these codes that have to be followed in order to keep a building functioning properly. So we had to, this was way over our heads. We don't know anything about the building codes. So one of the things that we had to do now that we're getting into plumbing and these big components of a building is we actually had to go to an engineer. And I'm going to tell you more about the engineer process later, but I want to show you in person what our plumbing looks like now, because it looks a lot better than that hole in the floor. So I'm going to walk you to our front bathroom. And this is the picture that you saw with the pipe sticking out of the floor. We had to have somebody come in and cut the concrete with this big tool, dig up the old pipe. And the plumbers then came in and took out the old pipes and put in new drainage for our toilet. So I'm going to show you. It doesn't seem very exciting to have a toilet, but when the stay-at-home order was issued and all you guys had to stay at home, all of our builders and contractors had to stay at home too. So we were working in this building without a toilet for a month, and we had to use a porta potty outside. So when this toilet got put into the floor, it was really exciting. It's sitting right on that pipe that you saw, and this is where the water is coming in to fill the tank of the toilet. And all of these pipes for this water got buried in this wall. But at one point we had no ceiling in here, and you could see where the pipes ran down through the ceiling, through the walls. And so we've really got to see the guts of this building and where the water comes from, which I'm going to show you next. And there's our sink. The sink that's here used to be right there. So this turned into a big project with lots of problems to solve. And one problem led to another. So right here where this light switch was our next big problem. There was a big breaker box here, which is where electricity is controlled in your building. So I'm going to move on a little bit and show you, before we go to the next picture of our electricity, I'm going to show you where the water comes from, and then we'll go back to the next problem. So I'm walking through our building. You can see it's still under construction in some parts. So we have tools, we have projects going on all over the place. We're trying to get them all finished up. Oh, there's Miss Kristen. This is my assistant. She's wonderful. Okay, this is our new utility room, which there's a whole nother story about that. Here's another sink. So you can actually see the lines of the water follow. And all those white lines are plumbing lines. And this is a really cool new plumbing material. See, a lot of the material that the water went through before was copper piping, which was very effective. Oh, here I've got some copper piping coming out of our water heater. Copper piping was the most effective kind of plumbing before because it's very durable. It lasts a really long time. But one problem with it is that it's expensive. And then this new white plastic tubing is less expensive, and it also can expand and contract with cold and hot water. So there are some other science components that are factors in planning building materials, is how temperature is going to affect the material. So that's our new plumbing. And this right here is where the water is coming into the building from the village. So the water comes from other plumbing outside of the building and comes into the building right here. So we actually had to turn this off in order to take out, I actually helped tear out a shower of one of our bathrooms. Isn't that funny to think a museum would have a shower in the bathroom? So we had to turn the water off so that as we start taking out the old toilets and the old showers, we didn't get sprayed with water. And now it's magically back on. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite things that we have now with our new plumbing is drinking fountains. They look really dirty because construction dust gets everywhere. So we have drinking fountains that have water carried to them from this line up here. So that's how the water moves all through our building. A lot of it is overhead. That's pretty cool. So let's go back to the other problem. Let me show you some pictures of what the electricity in our building used to look like. Okay. This is really fun. So that's my friend Katie putting some of the guts of the building on her head. That's our heat duct. But you can see those big fluorescent lights again. And that was part of our electrical journey. So while we found out that there was that big breaker box in the bathroom that couldn't be there, and I'll show you what a breaker box is in a minute, we also wanted to take out all those big fluorescent lights. So we, again, going back to things that we'd learned from the professionals like the building inspector, we learned that our ceiling was pretty well insulated from the cold, and that all of those big white rectangles, those ceiling tiles, they didn't have to be there. And we thought they were ugly. So we decided to start taking them down. We had enough information, we understood what they were for, and we knew that we could take them out without causing problems to our building. So we're doing our homework and making these plans. And we didn't need to go to the engineer for that because it wouldn't change the structure of our building. But what it did do is it opened up a whole nother can of worms with the electricity. You look at those lights, you can see all of the wires running around the roof. All of the electricity of the building, well, most of it, was in the ceiling. And once we took those ceiling tiles down, there were wires on the ceiling that weren't up to code. So they couldn't be left open. They couldn't be exposed to where you could see them. That wasn't safe anymore. They weren't the best material anymore because building sciences had advanced and there were better things to use for electricity. So after taking out all those drop ceiling, those big white tiles, and taking out all those big fluorescent light fixtures, we had to have an electrician come in to tell us what parts of the what wires we could use and which ones we needed to replace. So let's look at what our ceiling looks like now. This is really exciting. Those are our new light fixtures. We're testing out some different light bulbs that are all energy efficient, so they'll use less electricity, they'll save us money, and they look way better. The light is much prettier and softer, and you can see that tube right there, that metal tube is called conduit. This is a tube that's really safe for containing all the wires that transfer electricity. You can see right in this box right here, it's a junction box where we can put in another light fixture. You can see all those wires, or as I like to call them, guts of the building. So our electrical is way more efficient. This is saving electricity, it's saving us money, it looks a lot better. And I'm going to show you that big problem where the light switch was in the bathroom has been solved. But we did have to go back to the engineer for this. So I'm going to keep referring to this professional that we call the engineer, and I'm going to tell you some more about what he did for us in this adventure. But this is our closet, and this big metal box right here is a breaker box. So as the electricity comes into the building, it goes to all of these switches. And maybe you've seen this in your house, where if the power goes out and one of your parents goes, oh, well, I probably just shorted a fuse, or probably just have to go switch it back on. This is where they'll go first to see if you need a new fuse or need to switch the power back on. So this is kind of like the control center for all the electricity in our building. Now, I don't have a picture. I couldn't find a picture of what it used to look like before, but we had a big messy box right here and a small messy box next to it, and another one in the bathroom. And this is another cool component that's new that I don't completely understand, but the electricity that we need to run our heater and our air conditioning, which you call an HVAC system, it's heating and cooling, needs a different kind of energy. So this is a converter box that takes normal electricity that we're used to using, that we get from the electrical companies, and it converts it into a different kind of electricity. Now, I'm running out of time. I told you there are lots of stories for this building. So let's go to our next picture is our HVAC. So this is the heating and cooling that I was telling you about. So you can see that there are some things. The first picture on the left, we're in a closet where I just showed you that our water comes in, and we had this big chunky machine that made our heat. We had to take that out. We had to put a new ductwork. There's the professional standing on the roof, putting in our new HVAC on the roof. So we're just going to go right to the next slide, and I'm going to show you some of those components that we had to fix. Our engineer helped us with this also. There's big orange boards we had to add to the roof so that our heater could go on the top of the building and it could be supported and our roof wouldn't cave in. And then I'm going to go live one more time because I just want to show you what the engineer did for us in this whole process. We were not building professionals, and there is so much to know. So this was our final drawing. I showed you all those first designs. This is the final engineered drawing. So this professional engineer understands all the parts of building science. So as we had a plumber, as we had a heating professional, as we had carpenters that built with wood in the building, he held the design, the plan for everything to work together to meet all the codes to keep everybody safe, to make the doorways and the bathrooms accessible. So you can even see the toilet drawings in the bathrooms. And and making sure that we can open this building and have you guys come visit and meet our tortoises and our hedgehogs and do all these fun projects in a very safe and warm or air conditioned way, that the roof won't cave in and we have running water and everything's gonna work just fine. But we definitely had to go back to the drawing board a lot, and we had a lot to learn. So thanks for hearing about our journey, guys.
Barb, you're muted.
So thank you so much for sharing your exciting journey. It was fascinating to learn about that, and good luck in getting it all finished. Thank you to our sponsors and supporters for supporting programming like this with Newton's Road. And finally, I just want to share some of the upcoming sessions that we have. Later today, we have for the 10th and 12th graders learning about accounting and business analytics. And on Tuesday, we have our last coffee break for parents with programming for K-5 kids to do along with that. And our STEM at Home for 6th and 9th graders, where we'll learn about what is IT, Internet Technologies. So, and again, we'll be here for K-5 again next Thursday at 2. So thank you all for joining us. And thanks again to Kimmy and the Cognition team. Have a great afternoon, everyone.